Ever get the feeling that history is kind of like an unsolved puzzle, with pieces missing?
Absolutely. There are some mysteries that just keep us guessing, and none more so than the lost colony of Roanoke.
Over 100 colonists vanished into thin air. Poof, gone. And the only clue, one single word carved into a post.
It's a story that's been haunting imaginations for centuries. I mean, what really happened to those people?
Yeah, were they victims of some unknown disaster, or did something even stranger unfold on that remote island? Buckle up, everyone, because today we're diving headfirst into the mystery of the lost colony of Roanoke.
We're talking about the late 16th century, a time when England had its sights set on the New World.
Roanoke Island, strategically placed on the Atlantic coast, was supposed to be their big debut.
Exactly, their launch pad for exploration and expansion. This wasn't just some quick pit stop. It was meant to be a permanent settlement.
And that's what makes their disappearance so baffling. So to understand how this all went down, we need to rewind a bit. Back to 1585, and the first attempt at colonizing Roanoke.
Ah, yes, the expedition led by Ralph Lane. Let's just say, things got off to a rocky start.
From what I've read, they faced hardship from the get-go. Unfamiliar land, supply shortages, and let's not forget the whole stealing salt from the natives incident.
Right, not exactly a recipe for good neighborly relations. You see, salt back then wasn't just a condiment, it was vital for preserving food.
They're stealing it. Yeah, that was a major sign of disrespect. Not to mention a recipe for disaster.
Exactly. This early colony ultimately failed, and Lane headed back to England, probably with a few less illusions about the New World. But you know the saying, if at first you don't succeed.
Try again, and that they did. In 1587, John White set sail with a new group of colonists determined to make Roanoke work.
And this time they brought families, women, and children. They were putting down roots, literally.
But instead of a Garden of Eden, they found the ruins of the previous colony. Talk about a reality check.
It must have been a blow to their morale. Despite this, they persevered, with Manteo, a local Native American, playing a crucial role as a translator and mediator.
Manteo is a really interesting figure in all this, isn't he? Caught between two worlds, trying to bridge the gap between the English and the native tribes.
Absolutely. He saw the challenges the colonists faced, the cultural misunderstandings, the distrust, and it was right in the thick of all this that John White had to sail back to England for more supplies.
Leaving behind his granddaughter, Virginia Dare, among the colonists.
Can you imagine the weight of that decision? Little did he know that he wouldn't be able to return for 3 years. War broke out between England and Spain, and transatlantic voyages became, let's just say, a tad bit difficult.
Okay, so picture this. It's 1590. John White finally makes it back to Roanoke after years of worrying about his colony, his granddaughter. And what does he find?
A ghost town. The settlement is deserted, houses are dismantled, no sign of a struggle, no indication of what became of the colonists, except
for one bone-chilling detail.
the word Croatoan carved into a post.
Croatoan. It's like something straight out of a mystery novel, just one word, but man, the questions it raises. John White must felt like he was trapped in a riddle.
Oh, absolutely. Imagine the chills running down his spine. And here's the thing. The colonists had this whole system of signals worked out right. If danger forced them out, they were supposed to carve a Maltese cross.
So, no cross, just Croatoan. That's gotta mean something specific.
Right. It suggests they left deliberately, maybe even joined up with the native tribes, specifically the Croatoan people who lived on an island just to the south.
Hatteras Island, right. Makes sense if you think about it. Didn't Manteo mention friendly tribes in that area?
He did. Even hinted that the colonists might have to relocate at some point. So assimilation, finding safety in numbers, it's a strong possibility.
And then there's that account from John Lawson, the explorer. Early 1700s, he visits Hatteras Island and bam, runs into natives claiming to have, English ancestors.
Oh yeah, Lawson's account is fascinating. He even noted some of them had European features, gray eyes, things like that, and followed certain English customs. Talk about a cultural blend.
It's like those whispers of the past, echoing through generations. But hold on, something's been bugging me. Lawson found those anglicized natives on Hatteras, but the carving, that was back on Roanoke.
Ah, good catch. That geographical puzzle has stumped historians for ages. See, some argue that Croatoan wasn't meant as a destination, more like a declaration of alliance. We're with the Croatoan people, that kind of thing.
Ah, so it's about who, not where. But then, tribal alliances weren't exactly set in stone back then, were they? The Croatoan could have moved between White's visits.
Exactly. It's like trying to track shifting sands. And to make things even trickier, proving this theory. Nearly impossible after 4 centuries. DNA analysis, while promising, faces some serious hurdles.
Yeah, talk about finding a needle in a haystack. After centuries of intermarriage, migration. It's mind-boggling how much we don't know. But we've got other theories on the table, too. What about conflict with the native tribes? Can't ignore that possibility.
Right, it's a theory often linked to what happened to Jamestown with the Powhatan Confederacy. In fact, William Strachey, a Jamestown official, actually wrote about the Roanoke colonists being, well, massacred by the Powhatan.
But wasn't Strachey's account, like, years after the fact, secondhand information at best?
Precisely. And written during a time when portraying Native Americans as hostile, savages, that served a lot of agendas.
So we've got to take it with a grain of salt, especially since there's no real archaeological evidence to back up a massacre at Roanoke.
Exactly. No mass graves, no battle scars on the landscape. You figure over 100 people get wiped out, there'd be some trace, some whisper of it left behind.
It's like they just vanished.
Well,
Speaking of vanishing, what about the whole sailing back to England theory? A long shot, sure, but hey, desperate times.
stranger things have happened. Remember, they had that small ship, the pinnace, and some of those colonists knew their way around a boat. There's even a precedent, the Charlesfort colony, a French settlement down south. They upped and left, built themselves a makeshift vessel, and sailed all the way back to Europe.
Talk about guts, but could the Roanoke folks have pulled that off? We're talking about a way longer voyage, and who knows what kind of supplies they had left.
Right, it'd be an epic tale of survival if true. But again, if they tried, would there be something, a shipwreck, a logbook entry, something to say, hey, we were here?
It's like that silence is almost deafening. Centuries later, we're still scratching our heads.
And that's the beauty of the Lost Colony, isn't it? A puzzle with missing pieces, a mystery that refuses to stay buried.
It's like history's greatest cold case, isn't it? But even cold cases sometimes, they get new leads, right? What about modern archaeology? Any breakthroughs there?
Oh, there have been some really exciting finds. One, in particular, has thrown a real curveball into the whole mystery. We're talking about Site X, and it's all thanks to a tiny detail on one of John White's maps.
Okay, now you've got my attention. Tiny detail like what?
So picture this, a hand-drawn map, all these intricate details of the coastline, the layout of the settlement. But tucked away, almost like an afterthought, is this little symbol, a fort.
A hidden fort. Sounds like something out of an adventure movie.
I know, right? And researchers think John White might have put it there to, throw the Spanish off the scent. They were getting a little too close for comfort back then.
A secret message from the past. So where did this hidden symbol lead them? What's at Site X?
It's inland, not far from the Chowan River, just like the symbol suggested. And what they found there, well, let's just say it sent shivers down a few spines. Bits of pottery, pieces of weapons, all dating back to the right time period.
You're saying this stuff could have belonged to the lost colonists.
It's a real possibility. But hold on, because here's where things get even more complicated. Remember that first Roanoke colony, the one Ralph Lane led?
Yeah.
They poked around that area too. And to muddy the waters even further, there was a trading post set up nearby sometime in the mid-1600s.
Talk about a tangled web. So how can they tell who left what? It's like trying to sort out a jumbled box of puzzle pieces.
That's where the real artistry of archaeology comes in. Analyzing soil layers, comparing the artifacts they find to stuff from other settlements, using all sorts of fancy dating methods.
It's amazing how much detective work goes into understanding the past. But what about the Croatoan angle? Anything new on that front?
Actually, yes. Remember Hatteras Island, where John Lawson met those natives with English ancestry?
Yeah.
Just a few years back, archaeologists were excavating there at a site thought to be an old Native American village, and guess what?
What? Tell me you're about to blow my mind again.
They found a piece of sword and part of a gun, both matching up with what the English were using back in the late 1500s.
Right where the Croatoan people lived. That can't be a coincidence.
Pretty compelling, right?
Yeah.
Lends even more weight to the idea that at least some of the colonists ended up finding refuge with the Croatoan. Just imagine, English settlers sharing their skills and knowledge, becoming part of a new culture.
It really makes you realize how much we don't know and how much history is still waiting to be uncovered. Every new discovery, every new piece of the puzzle.
It just adds another layer to the story. And that's the magic of the Lost Colony of Roanoke. It reminds us that history isn't some dusty old book. It's alive, it's evolving, and with each new find, each new theory.
We get a little closer to understanding the past, and who knows, maybe one day we'll finally crack the code of what happened to those colonists. But until then,
The mystery lives on. And that's okay. It's a good reminder that sometimes the best stories are the ones that keep us guessing. It's the mystery that keeps us digging, keeps us asking questions, keeps that spark of curiosity alive. And who knows, maybe someone listening right now, they hold the key to the whole thing. Maybe it's a family tale, a forgotten diary, or just a hunch. The Lost Colony reminds us that history is everyone's story, and sometimes the smallest detail can unlock the biggest secrets.
So true. So to everyone listening, don't ever underestimate the power of a good mystery. Keep exploring, keep digging into the past. You never know what you might uncover, and who knows, maybe, just maybe, you'll be the one to finally solve the riddle of the Lost Colony of Roanoke.